Hey y'all, welcome back to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, French candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
And wow, we're back. We're back again.
Yes, we keep doing this.
Yeah, despite our best intentions or best instincts, we're here again.
I feel like for my hobbies, COVID has been great. Like I'm in a writing group. You and I play D&D now once a week.
Yeah.
We have no excuse not to be podcasting every week as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we're going to continue what we've been doing. But wait, 1 second. I am checking the internet here. Clackety, clackety, clackety. We got Rocky news.
We have Rocky news.
Rocky news. Oh, my God.
Never stop rocking.
Oh, man. If we ever stop Rocky in the free world, that would be devastating.
Get out of my brain.
Nope, they're forever. So, once again, as we say in a lot of our podcasts, if you're new here, our favorite third-party gadfly politician is a fellow by the name of Rocky De La Fuente. He's a businessman from San Diego, California. He is running for president this year. He is the official candidate of the Alliance Party, which I think he made up. But
So too.
a couple weeks ago, he got the endorsement of the Natural Law Party, which was the subject of a couple of our episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, he won the nomination for the Reform Party. Now, the Reform Party is a saddled remnant of Ross Perot's old party back in the 90s. Their party history is so sad. It's going to be a really devastating time when we do a series on them.
God. They're a cult without a leader.
Oh, man. That's the sad thing is there were so many people who were wanting to do some good stuff with it, but it was too many opinions, too many differing ideas, and it just fractured itself apart. But they're still trucking on, and now Rocky De La Fuente is their nominee this year for president.
Amazing. I mean, if he gets another one, he's going to get a free, or if he gets another party nomination, he'll get a free sub.
Oh my God, that's my favorite part about going to Jersey Mike's, is if you're running on multiple parties, they give you that card. I don't think they've ever had to give out a free sub with that though, but you can always dream.
I really want to know. I mean, obviously we have listeners around the globe, but is Jersey Mike's, like, that's such a specific Great Lakes Midwest area.
Oh yeah, it's
reference.
regional.
Like,
it's we are completely shutting out at least 70% of our listeners by dropping just that as the joke, but you get what you get.
Right.
Anyway, what do we talk about here? Oh yeah,
we're talking about the free market.
Oh my God, I am so excited to talk about the invisible hand of the free market. Oh man,
better catch these hands.
Oh, we are talking about the Libertarian Party today, because just a couple weeks after the Constitution Party had their convention, the Libertarians had their convention. And
strap on your fedoras, folks.
Oh my God, I'm just gonna dive in.
Yes.
Woo. So today, as I've already said, I don't know why I write this shit out when I know I'm just gonna announce it ahead of time. But yeah, we're talking about the 2020 Libertarian Party Convention. Now, we here at Gadfly have done a lot of good-natured ribbing to the Libertarians.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people probably already have knee-jerk images of what we think a Libertarian believes or acts like or looks like, or they could easily start a party game called Libertarian Candidate or Serial Killer. But for now, I'll ask you to put that aside. Because like so many other folks we talk about here, the Libertarian Party and its candidates contain multitudes. The Libertarian Party was founded in 1972 in Westminster, Colorado. The party describes its members as people who, quote, strongly oppose any government interference into their personal, family, or business decisions. Essentially, we believe all Americans should be free to live their lives and pursue their interests as they see fit as long as they do no harm to another. The main gist of this is that the Libertarian Party believes in making government as small as possible, with its only purpose being to protect people from force and fraud. Since their founding, the party has had a genuinely strong amount of success. In their very first year, they received an electoral vote for presidential nominee John Hospers, due to an unfaithful elector from Virginia. This also became the first ever electoral vote ever awarded to a woman for vice president nominee Tony Nathan. In 1978, they won their first ever state-level election when Dick Randolph won a seat in the Alaska State House. And by 1980, presidential nominee Ed Clark made it onto the ballot in all 50 states, making the Libertarian Party the first third party to accomplish that since the Socialist Party in 1916. Today, the Libertarians have 232 elected officials, including 7 judges, 13 mayors, and a congressman from Michigan by the name of Justin Amash.
Oh, God, that's right.
Yeah. Poor Justin. They even have their own party animal mascot, the porcupine. Apparently, I don't know if it's 100% official, because when I was listening to their convention, someone kept trying to make it an official business to name the porcupine as the official party mascot. So, who knows?
Why, like, are they self-aware or not self-aware enough? Because like, yeah, if I found myself surrounded by a lot of libertarians, I too would feel like a lot of pricks were just staring at me.
I mean, you'd be one of like 12 women in the room, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what did libertarians believe in? For that, let's take a look at their 2018 platform, since their 2020 platform won't be officially decided until the beginning of July. The libertarian platform is broken into 3 planks: personal liberty, economic liberty, and securing liberty. Personal liberty revolves around the libertarian idea that people have the freedom to do and consume as they wish, and the consequences of those actions are everyone's own personal responsibility. So long as your decisions don't do harm directly to anyone else, then you should be free to do it. Because of this, libertarians would push to eliminate all laws regarding victimless crimes. This includes laws against gambling, drug use and sales, and sex work. Despite the party being considered more conservative, they're also against the death penalty, or pro-choice, but mainly because they don't feel like the government has any business deciding anything about abortion, not because of any really personal beliefs beyond that, and equally support religion, as well as freedom from religion. They are also against any discrimination based on, quote, sexual orientation, preference, gender, or gender identity. They use this belief to push that marriage licenses also shouldn't be a thing, but recognize that that's actually going to take some time to get rid of. On the more conservative side, though, they believe that parents should be able to send their children to any school they choose, along with homeschooling as an option, and support the right of self-defense, which for them means that anyone should be allowed to defend their person or property with whatever weaponry they feel is best. And to round it out, the government would no longer be allowed to collect data on citizens or perform any form of unreasonable search and seizure. So where are you at on that one? How's that feel? How's that like?
Oh, here's the thing is that, like, yeah, hearing that, you know, I'd say we're at 50-50, like, cool, I get it, and 50-50, like, do you not understand that most people are not that trustworthy? So but then on top of it, a lot of these things, especially the more like laissez-faire abortion rights and everything, which do, yeah, just absolutely go in favor of small AF government. But I've yet to, like, that's never what's like touted. You know, that never seems to get the same amplification as, I don't know, getting rid of coal regulations.
Yeah, it's not like they ever put their foot forward when it comes to social issues. It's almost always business and capitalism first.
Yeah.
It's not like, who's John Galt? Oh, he was totally fine with women getting abortions. No, that's not the book. That's not how it goes.
I'm also frankly surprised that the party has only been around since the early 70s, because didn't Atlas Shrugged and those books come out in the late 50s?
Oh yeah, well, and technically that's a separate sort of sect, theology of, not theology, but a philosophy of objectivism, where objectivism is a lot more self-centered, while libertarianism does seem to have more of a focus of society as a whole, but growing that from the individual first. While like the Ayn Rand objectivism is more like, I do what's best for me and fuck everyone else.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that, you know, there isn't a huge love for Ayn Rand, but it's not 100% what pushes the party.
It's not even a good book. It's not well written. It's not good. I'm just tired. I'm tired of it.
That's perfectly fine. I remember, I've actually never read any Ayn Rand. I think I tried to read the first page of The Fountainhead because it was on some list of, like, you read this book, you get extra credit, but it was like some computer generated list. And I tried to, and it's like, fuck it, Call of the Wild. This is probably... I like doggos. Let's do this.
Hat shit. I don't even care anymore. Put a boy in the wilderness.
Cool. So let's move on to economic liberty. And this is where things get real fun, because this is, like we said, this is the bread and butter of the Libertarian Party. This is laissez-faire economy, which just boils down to no rules, just right on how capitalism should work.
Sponsored by White Claw.
Oh my God, White Claw. No one sees you doing it. It's legal, right? Like White Claw. Oh, man. So the basic thing that this boils down to is that regulations and licensing keep people from being able to be as profitable as possible. So those things should be gotten rid of. And the theory is if a company is too dangerous, shoddy, or downright evil, then the population will refuse to purchase their goods, which would encourage other businesses to not be evil. And we know that this has always worked. So just looking back to the faraway times of last episode, how do you think Don Blankenship would operate in a world with no regulations and no licensing?
The same, because he practically does?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like,
well, and the fact of the matter is, like, it's not like the common man or the individual gets a say on what kind of coal the power company is using. It's this sort of thing stops at a point.
It's like there's marketing. Like it's called marketing. It's called like, and especially if you're believing in these like no regulations outright, then that would also allow you to just straight up lie to the public.
Yeah.
So how would anyone have the knowledge that I don't know, that these supplements, instead of giving me more vitality and a harder erection, are actually just going to fuck with my heart arrhythmia?
Yeah, well, and that's part of the problem is I think that would fall under their protecting the public from fraud banner. But the problem is the way it's set up right now is the company has to be caught doing that first. And by that time, who knows how much stuff is already on the shelves. And so if you're making, say, your own vitamins out of your own property and you're only selling to the local community, at what point are people going to start to catch on where you can get in trouble for what you're doing?
Right. So when Jim down the road falls dead.
Yeah. And who knows how long that would even take.
And then by that point, Jim's already dead.
Yeah. Jim's not going to sue. Well, and the funny thing is another thing they have in their plank is that if you get rid of environmental regulations, things will actually get better, because if people are going to pick and choose what companies they're going to use, then they're not going to want to hurt the environment, but also companies that rely on the environment are going to want to take better care of it so they won't pollute.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Not everything is a Coors ad about how great the water is in Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, Don Blankenship dumping coal slurry back into the mines.
There would be so much coal slurry. So much.
Yeah.
There would be so many more flints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the libertarian business ideal only works in a world in which businessmen can think of a world beyond the lifespan of their own pockets. I know there are a lot of companies out there who have like a 50 or 100-year plan, but a lot of people who are running these companies, they only legitimately care about the company as long as they're alive and what they can get from it.
And also those 100-year plans also involve making money.
Exactly. Yeah, this idea of making consistently infinite amounts of money. And to do that, you have to ignore regulations. You have to cut corners. And, I think we all know how shitty and evil Amazon is, but I think between you and I, occasionally we still use it whether we mean to or not.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's actually the root of what drives me nuts about the libertarian economic idea is that it's so optimistic. It has this optimistic ideal that business will always do the right thing because it is in their benefit financially. And that's just, I don't want to say it's naive, because I'm sure there might be a couple companies out there that do that. But in the world that I've seen, that is not how it works.
And the companies who are willing to do that also are then more than willing to put up with whatever regulation, knowing that it's for the good of all rather than just like their one business.
Yeah.
I appreciate your optimism, because while you worry that you might be thinking they're naive, I'm sitting here thinking like, no, this is just straight up denial. Like, these motherfuckers also want to make money, and this way they can tell themselves this lie and sleep at night.
Yeah. Well, I think the main reason that I lean towards optimism, at least this year, as compared to previous years that I might be talking about the Libertarian Convention, is that I actually have a decent level of respect for the candidates. And so due to that, I'm leaning more towards optimism than personal denial, which by the end of this, we could be totally wrong. We'll just
We may have flip-flopped.
So, now that we've gotten the huge meat and potatoes of the business side done, what are some other things they really want to do? Well, for one, they want to end all subsidies to energy, like oil or natural gas. They want government employees to not have to join a union. But if they are in a union, then the employer should not be forced to negotiate with said union. And speaking of the government, the Libertarian Party wants to pass an amendment that the government is never allowed to incur debt. To make that even harder, they want to repeal the 16th Amendment, which is the one that makes income tax legal. Also, let's get to the IRS. Same with Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, since all of those should, ideally to them, be accomplished by private organizations. And while we're at it, let's also privatize education and healthcare. Invisible hand of the market, baby!
No!
And just for a little bit of fun, no one should be required to get a license to practice certain trades. And minimum wage should be abolished.
These are people for whom, 1910 wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the old idea of just my great-great-granddad used to make barrels. Why can't I make a barrel? I need a barrel license now.
Grandpa used to, you could just walk up into any saloon and get a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or be a hobo riding the rails.
Yeah, and a lot of their idea behind minimum wage is that no matter how high you raise a minimum wage, everything else is just going to go up in price anyway. And if you get rid of a minimum wage, then it's going to set at least a low wage that people would work for. That's at least
Again, shit is already going through the roof. This is just like, it's happening right now. You're living your libertarian dream already. And it sucks.
Man,
None of us
not agree with that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But once again, it's that optimistic view that if, overall pay goes down, then of course, there's going to be cheaper places for people to live. And people are going to fill that need. It's like, no, they're not.
No.
All right. And at least for the last pillar, securing liberty. There's at least a good chunk of good. Well, I mean, a little bit. Okay, mainly just a bit that very much like the Constitution Party, the Libertarian Party is very anti-war and pro-defense. And they're also against the use of torture, so that's nice. And they would also ban the FBI, CIA, and NSA from redacting any information and make everything they find available to the public.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So I kind of love that. And a part of me was like, that seems like a bad idea. But a number of the candidates also just want to completely get rid of them anyway. So, I don't think they'd be too sad with the CIA being like, we can't do our jobs. They'd be like, well, quit then.
To that point, for people who hate government so much, why are you trying to be elected?
I think that might get a little bit clearer as we start talking about some of the candidates. So another fun fact is the Libertarian Party is one of the few political parties that actually support the concept of open borders. So the next time you're at Thanksgiving dinner and your aunt starts yelling about how Democrats want to open borders and have abortion drones, you can say, well, actually, that's the Libertarians.
Listen, and I will, of course, what is a border but a regulation on land?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
They should hire me, except they will not pay me enough.
I mean, look, that minimum wage is really getting in the way of paying you more fairly.
Like, I don't accept Bitcoin. You're going to have to give me greenbacks.
But it's not backed by gold.
Oh my God.
So the final bit in the party's platform is this paragraph, and I don't 100% understand it, so I would love to talk through it with you. We'll just riff a little bit, figure out.
You said I wasn't going to be angry during this. You sounded
I said
so
you were going
excited.
to be less angry. Decidedly less angry.
Read the damn paragraph.
Whenever any government becomes destructive of individual liberty, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to agree to such new governance as to them shall seem most likely to protect their liberty.
That sounds seditious.
I was kind of wondering, because to me it kind of sounds like, well, democracy doesn't work for this. Let's fucking do something else.
That is you are taking away our slaves and thus our right to economic freedom, and we don't want to be a part of this union no more.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird sentence to end on.
It's weird.
Right?
It's especially weird if it's the penultimate sentence and the last sentence is vote for us.
Yeah, vote for us. No government, maybe?
It has no rules.
There's just so much henceforth and therefores that I just like, I think I know what you're saying, but
all that's missing is a milady.
Oh my God. Just a hat tip emoji.
Oh.
So it should be noted that 2020 is an incredibly pivotal year for the Libertarians. In 2016, the party set a whole pile of records via a humongous uptick in votes. For the first time since 1980, the party gained more than 1% of the popular vote in the presidential race and obliterated the old record by netting 3.3% of the vote in nearly 4.5 million votes. This was via the former New Mexico governor, Gary Johnson, running with former Massachusetts governor, William Weld. The party also got the most cumulative popular votes in their combined House and Senate races. Plus, Senate candidate Joe Miller in Alaska also finished second with a party record of 29.2% of the vote.
Go on, Alaska.
Yeah. So, if anything, 2016 showed that the Libertarians are in a huge uptick. And, I could count some of 2018, but midterms are always such fluke years for third parties that it's kind of hard to gauge an uptick or a downtick. But they have so much momentum going on right now that 2020 should really be a big year for them, and they really need to push.
Do they?
I mean, if they want to keep succeeding, they do.
I'm saying for me.
Oh, for you? That's up to you. That's your individual liberty.
Yeah, as an individual. Do they?
So from May 22nd through May 24th, the Libertarians met up to nominate their president. Initially, they were going to do this at the JW Marriott Hotel in Austin, Texas, but due to the COVID, they switched to a Zoom call that was live broadcast on YouTube.
the more mature decisions they've ever made.
Well, and the number one thing they did, and it's so simple, but essentially they were screen sharing a Word doc saying, this is who's talking next. If that's not your name and you talk and you're on mute, you're getting muted by everyone else here. It's like, we have to run this normally. Like we don't, as much as I would love for everyone for this to be the party that we always have. This year is a bummer for not just us, but everyone else.
Wow, they're showing some maturity.
Yeah, I mean, it was, honestly, God, Nicholas Starwick, who's the head of the party, he did a good job. He did a very good job.
All right.
Yeah.
Go on, Nick.
Yeah. In 2019, the party held a competition to decide the theme of the convention, where the winning idea was Tan Staffel.
Dan Staffel.
Tan Staffel. So I'm sure you're familiar with what that is. No need to explain.
Ooh, what? No. Is it a person? Is it a thing? I have no idea.
So it is
it a town?
Oh my God, the town is Tan Staffel. We've had a Libertarian mayor for 80 years. So Tan Staffel is an acronym, which stands for phrase.
No.
There ain't no such thing as a free meal.
I can't take it anymore.
The phrase was on the first ever party logo and was popularized by sci-fi writer Robert Heinlein and libertarian economist god Milton Friedman. I am unsure if anyone in the party has noticed the double negative or not.
Yeah. Well, what is grammar but a regulation on my speech?
Fuck off. So true. Oh man. So this would end up beating out a theme that had been winning for the majority of the contest, but got beat out at the last couple of hours. And it is a theme called Ancapistan. Also, I'm sure, incredibly clear.
No. At least this one, I know kind of what I'm expecting. What is Ancapistan besides? Yeah, I got nothing. What is it?
So this is an idea in the party that is very controversial, but it is the concept of an anarcho-capitalistic utopia.
I'm gonna barf.
Its history is so weird that I kind of have to talk a little bit about it.
You absolutely have to talk about it, Dusty.
So agreement on what Ancapistan really means can vary. For some, it's more of a hypothetical ideal. Some consider tax havens like the Cayman Islands as a version of it. But for true believers, it is something they want to turn into an actual nation. An attempt to make this a reality was a micronation dubbed the Republican of Minerva. In 1972, a group of libertarians called the Ocean Life Research Foundation created an artificial island in the Pacific Ocean. They created their own currency, elected a president, and sent out a declaration of independence to the surrounding nations. The neighboring nations responded by agreeing that, no, Tonga owns that land, and it was pretty much decided on by every nation in the Pacific, including Australia. So 6 months later, an expedition by the Tongan government reclaimed the island. In 1982, a group of Americans tried to recreate the Republic of Minerva, but 3 weeks later were forced off the island by the Tongan military. The island hasn't been invaded since.
Good.
Yeah. There is also, for some reason, the currency comes in increments of $35.
Oh my God.
So you can get a Republic of Minerva $35 coin on eBay.
Why? What does a pack of gum cost on the Republic of Minerva?
I don't know. Well, that's the thing that blows my mind. Is like, yeah, you made an artificial island. Are you planning on living on it? What are you going to make? It's not like you have arable land. It's not like, I don't know if you guys are just going to fish. There are multitudes of Pacific nations that have a very rough time. Like, what are you going to do?
Oh, this gets into the heart of why I get so easily enraged about libertarians and their platform is just like, oh, you never had to grow up in the same way that women and men of color and women in particular who have just been expected to be caregivers, whether or not that fits them. It's like you live in this land of unending adolescence. How beautiful. You're just gonna go to an island owned by Tonga and make $35 coins.
It's like, this is mine now, deal with it. Which is really the entire idea behind micronations, is just suddenly like yelling at a nation much larger than you and saying, these 3 square feet are mine now.
I did that when I was 8, all the time. All the time. Made my own maps.
Yes.
My own flags. And then eventually you hit puberty.
Yeah. And then you have to put your tax haven somewhere else. Man. Now let's get to the real fun shit. The reason y'all are here.
Yes.
The nomination of this year's Libertarian presidential candidate. So the Libertarians, of course, have a much different process. First, the party held a series of non-binding state primaries for the nominees, which really does little more than gain kind of a sense on how people in the party are thinking. Also, since only 12 parties had a primary ballot, one of which happened after the convention, it's not enough to really discern a clear electoral favorite. So upon arrival at the convention, delegates are given a vote to decide who can get onto the initial nominating ballot. 30 votes were needed to make the cut, and anyone who didn't could still continue on as a write-in candidate. Same goes for anyone who gets cut from the ballot due to having the least number of votes in each round, and in the end, 6 candidates would clear this bar of 30 votes. But I want to spend a moment to talk about the 2 who missed by only 3. First is former Republican and current Congressman Justin Amash. Justin had initially announced an exploratory committee to run for the nomination on April 28th, but 18 days later decided he wasn't going to run and saw no way that he could win the presidency. The problem with this is that during this time, he had missed the chance to file to run for his current congressional seat in Michigan as a Libertarian, would have to rescind his party affiliation to run as an independent, and instead chose to just fuck it and not run again in 2020. Honestly, as crazy as the past couple of years have been for Justin, I honestly don't blame him. He's probably going to retire, get a cushy news gig somewhere at MSNBC or something, and just live the rest of his life.
Oh, yeah. Because, yeah, for all those listening, like, definitely look up a picture of Justin Amash right now. Like, that man definitely has the right to bear arms.
Oh, God.
He's very easy on the eyes, is what I'm saying.
No. Speaking of easy on the eyes, we should talk about the other guy who didn't get in. A fella by the name of Arvin Vohra. So Arvin was the former vice chair of the Libertarian National Committee, held that job until, I believe, 2018. And of everyone that we're going to talk about today, I have the least nice things to say about Arvin.
Ooh, let's dig in.
So I'm just going to start things off by saying he looks like he's written a whole series of pickup artist books.
Oh, no. Wait, I have to look him up now.
Yeah, oh yeah, look up his picture. Let's hold for a second.
Yeah, he looks like he was rejected once by a woman, and that's now his defining feature, like a poorly fleshed out movie character.
Oh, yeah. So when you think of the archetypal libertarian at a party, I guarantee he's who you're imagining. Arvin has a whole history of saying outlandish and fucked up shit, then claiming it was all satire for the lulz. He has called He has called public schools welfare for the middle class. He has called teachers supervisors of indoctrination camps, stated that families should choose their own children's age of consent, and after being called out for going onto a podcast hosted by a white supremacist, stated, if I have to pick between racism and welfarism, I'll pick racism in a second. And it gives me great pleasure to say that the 6 people that we're going to talk about are all far better people than Arvin Vohra.
All right, Libertarian Party.
Yeah, this is a wonderful shift, just because I feel like there's, or at least from the conventions I have watched, you have like the Gary Johnson types who are probably closer to Republican than Libertarian on one side. Then you have like the middle of the road laissez-faire sort of libertarians, and then you got these people like Arvin Vohra who are like anarcho-satirists who just want to fuck with everything.
Who, let's be honest, are just sociopaths who couldn't make it on Wall Street.
Yeah, he looks like he's been kicked out of the stock exchange.
Yeah. He's a bro who's not good with numbers. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean that's an okay thing. You just can't hit on the NASDAQ. So another side note before we get into the really fun stuff, due to the Libertarian Party ranging from chaotic good to chaotic neutral in their alignment, their write-in votes each round can be pretty amazing. So after each balloting round where someone gets kicked out, I'll be noting some of the other folks who got surprise write-in votes. So to kick things off with our 6th place finisher, we'll begin with the most polarizing of the group, anti-war activist and Marine Corps veteran, Adam Kokesh. Adam was born in 1982 in San Francisco, California. There isn't a ton about his early youth out there, but he points to his parents' divorce when he was 10 years old as a major turning point in his life. In 1995, he'd been kicked out of the Robert Louis Stevenson School in Monterey Peninsula for possession of alcohol. After that, he transferred to the Native American Preparatory School in Rowe, New Mexico. The school had been founded the year prior and was created as a way to increase the number of Native American students at Ivy League schools. The school does seem to have accepted non-Native American students, though, seeing as Adam is Jewish and does not seem to have any direct relations who are Native American. That same year, he would also attend Devil Pups Junior Base Camp, a sort of summer camp held at Camp Pendleton for teens with military aspirations. It was here that Adam would find his calling. By the age of 17, he had enlisted in the Marine Corps, and after graduating, he would volunteer to fight in the war in Iraq. Adam would be stationed in Fallujah, notorious for being the site of some of the worst fighting during the war. While serving, Adam would grow disillusioned, finding the war to be antithetical to what America claimed to want to accomplish. Before long, would grow to hate the fact that he was there. After serving his tour, Adam returned to America and joined Iraq Veterans Against the War. He would gain national attention in February 2007 when he protested at the congressional hearing of former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. While inside during the testimony that Gonzales was given, Adam brandished a pair of signs, one that said, "I don't recall," and another with hash marks indicating the number of times Gonzales answered a question with that particular phrase. In the end, there were 72 hash marks. What really got Adam in trouble, though, was that he was wearing his uniform during the protest. But that's the thing, it wasn't even his full uniform, it was just his hat. But either way, this is a huge no-no for soldiers or former soldiers. The Marines reacted by honorably discharging Kokesh and demoting him to the rank of corporal. This punishment would only kickstart what became a very busy year for Adam. In April, he would be arrested at a protest at the Senate Hard Office building. In June, his honorable discharge would be stripped due to him continuing to protest in uniform. In that same month, he would be arrested for trespassing into Fort Benning during a protest. However, those charges would be dropped due to it clearly being an accident, not a provocation. In 2009, Adams' form of protest would shift from slightly passive to far more in your face. In May of that year, a ban had been placed on dancing at the Jefferson Memorial. This decision had been decided by the DC Court of Appeals to go hand in hand with the current law banning protest demonstrations at the memorial. The idea was that dancing had the potential to cause a group of onlookers and would be too similar to that of a protest. As was tradition at the time, a flash mob was formed. So this group had, it wasn't, I wrote down that it was a huge dance protest, but it was really more like 10 people. Like there was like a couple slow dancing and a few other people like doing dances. Adam would end up doing a bit of a jig, and for his action, he was violently arrested by the US Parks Police.
Holy shit.
In the video, he is literally picked up, body slammed, and then choked before being cuffed. And the entire time he is just being very passive and very calm. It should also be noted that the US Parks Police is the same branch that gassed and beat protesters so that Trump could have his Bible photo up. And 1 month later, Adam would return to dance again, but this time he would bring 200 total protesters.
Ooh, love an IRL footloose.
It's just like, I get why it's against the law, but it's also just like, you're just asking people. It feels like a reaction to flash mobs, something that if you were, between the ages of 20, 30, you're like, this is fun, but it's going away.
Yeah, last time I checked, the United States does not have the same history of capoeira that, say, Brazil does.
Yeah, like no one's going to be, planking on the Vietnam War Memorial for very long. Or, I don't know. No one's doing the Harlem Shake in front of the Washington Memorial for more than a couple of months.
No, we're just dancing, man. We're just out here having fun. No big deal. Whatever.
2010 would mark Adams' first move into the world of politics. He had previously done a couple of campaign stops with Ron Paul during his 2008 presidential run, but this time around, Adam would be the candidate. Running as a Republican, Adam entered the congressional race for New Mexico's 3rd District. Despite getting endorsements from the Santa Fe Reporter and the Republican Liberty Caucus, Adam wouldn't make it out of the primary, losing to his opponent with only 28.7% of the votes. And a few years later, Adam would officially switch from a Republican to Libertarian. But Adam's big moment would come in July of 2013, when he organized the Open Carry March in Washington, D.C., which is exactly as it sounds, a march in the nation's capital where everyone's openly carrying guns.
I felt like we were all here just having fun, doing some good. And we took a hard left turn all of a sudden.
A little bit. So it's about to get a little worse because during the protest, Adam would upload a video to the internet of him loading his shotgun in the middle of Freedom Plaza. 5 days later, his home was raided by the US Park Police SWAT team.
Holy fuck.
Adam would be charged with possession of psychotropic mushrooms and with owning a gun along with the drugs. Because apparently if you own a gun in Washington, it's fine, but if you own drugs and a gun, separate charge. In an interview at the jail, Adam would claim that the cops planted the mushrooms, but also that he would be running for the Libertarian nomination for president in 2020, making him the very first candidate to declare.
Yes.
7 years early.
That's your spotlight.
At this time, he's not even old enough to run. He has to wait at least a couple more years until he's 55.
For fuck's sake. Oh, of course he didn't realize. Oh, Jesus.
No, I'm sure he realized. That's why he's saying, I'm not running in 2016. Won't be old enough.
Oh, okay.
I'll wait until 2020.
As someone who believes that families should allow their own age of consent, I would like to run for president at a much younger age.
So in 15 days, Adam would make bail. But he would be arrested immediately the second he stepped foot out of the jail and was charged with loading a shotgun in public.
My God!
4 months later, he would plead guilty to the gun charge, as well as a possession charge for smoking weed in public during the protest. He would be sentenced to 2 years probation. As for the mushroom charge, he would enter an Alfred plea the next year, which is essentially like saying, yeah, I did it, but I'm not pleading guilty. And he would end up getting a suspended sentence for that. So by the end of all this, he would spend no time in jail except during that time that he was waiting to go to trial. So 2014 also marks my favorite thing that Adam has been associated with. He would appear as a future version of himself in a movie called Alongside Night. For those of you who are fans of The Room, or Birdemic, or any other movie that's so bad it's amazing, I cannot recommend enough Alongside Night. I tried to make Una watch it. There were not enough people in the room.
That movie!
Yeah, it's that one.
To all the listeners, I tapped out at what, 5 minutes?
I think we were 15 minutes in. There were not enough people in that room. We needed at least another 2 people to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, and there also wasn't enough substance abuse.
That's true. Yeah, we definitely needed a lot more booze to help us through.
Anything.
If I do anything in this podcast life, I will make people know the wonder of Alongside Night. And you know what, Una? I'm actually willing to put something on the line right now.
Okay.
If either of our 2 Libertarian episodes get 100 views or listens, then we will do an episode of us reviewing Alongside Night with a couple of
Yes.
special guests.
This sounds great.
Awesome. So, I'm excited. Yeah. All right. 2018 would also see Adam returning to the political world when he became the Libertarian Party's official nominee for the Senate race in Arizona. However, the state GOP, fearing that the Libertarian nominee would sink a race they would eventually lose anyway, stated that the Libertarian Party had not cleared enough hurdles to make it onto the ballot. Kokesh would have to run as a write-in candidate, and at most, might have gotten 566 votes.
You know what? My heart does go out to the Libertarians right now. It's like you are facing similar voter suppression.
Yeah, they have honestly been
wow.
a party that has fought so hard to get on the ballot, and by this point, they should be considered a pretty serious party, but they still have to do this bullshit as if they're only a year old. Which brings us to 2020. True to his word, Adam ran for president. He even picked up a couple of endorsements.
Ooh.
One of which was security software engineer and alleged murderer John McAfee, and former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. At first, Adam would list John McAfee as his choice for vice president, but McAfee kind of had a strange year of getting arrested and live tweeting the whole thing, so Adam moved his vice presidential choice to a man by the name of Larry Sharpe. But Larry Sharpe was already the official VP choice of another candidate, so it's kind of awkward. It also didn't help that the final Libertarian debate was only allotted for 5 candidates, and Adam wasn't able to make the cut.
Oh.
But lucky for us, Adam may have a very extensive history, but his platform is short and very clear.
Great.
Quoted directly from his site. The platform is simple. When elected, I will swear in, walk to the White House, pardon everyone convicted under federal law for victimless crimes, and sign one executive order. This executive order will lay out the process for dissolving the federal government in a peaceful, orderly manner. With it, I will resign as president to become the custodian of the federal government. So one problem. Technically, if he resigns on the first day to his new position that he made up, then constitutionally, the vice president would become president. And if his vice president was equally engaged in this idea and also resigned with Adam, then legally either Nancy Pelosi or Kevin McCarthy would become president and immediately rescind this executive order. Second, can he even legally dissolve the federal government? And the answer is, sort of. To accomplish this goal, Adam would need to gain presidential reorganization authority. This is a power that allows the president to reorganize, abolish, or create the various departments under the president. However, the only way the president can get this authority is if Congress allows it. Since this authority was officially established in 1932, it has only been extended 16 times, and hasn't been granted to a president since Reagan in 1984. It should also be noted that no major changes to federal departments have occurred since Dwight Eisenhower's Reorganization Plan No. 1 in 1953. So an executive order would not give Adam what he needed. But if he was able to convince the House and Senate to grant him reorganization authority, then he could at least have a very solid start in abolishing the federal government, at least the departments under the president's part. And finally, what's going to happen to all those federal agencies that Adam shuts down when he reorganizes the cabinet? Well, some will just immediately go away, like the Department of Education and the IRS. Others would switch to being run by respective state governments, like the Departments of Justice, Interior, and probably one of the weirder ones, the Department of State. Others would be privatized, like the Social Security Administration and the Department of Veterans Affairs, which Adam makes a point to say that the privatized Department of Veterans Affairs will only be run by veterans. Aside from getting rid of the whole federal government, the only other thing that Adam would do is completely change the official currency of the country. Instead of the dollar, we would use Americoins, a decentralized cryptocurrency.
Stop drilling, you hit oil. Una is on board.
I mean, Americoin sounds like such a first draft name. Like, you might as well just call them Liberty Bucks.
I have been awake at 3 a.m. and watched that infomercial.
Oh my god. Are you tired of your normal coins? They're all different sizes and shapes, and they always fall out of your wallet? Why not Americoin? It's invisible and one size. It's invisible as the hand of the free market.
These commemorative edition coins, Americoins, will
Why
grace
someone
your
call
family
one
for
of them?
generations.
Oh my god. Ugh. So sadly, despite his 7-year head start, Adam didn't do so well. On the very first ballot, he would get 7.5% of the vote and be the first of the 6 candidates to be kicked off the ballot for the next round. Other write-in candidates who wouldn't make the cut included 2 votes for Edward Snowden, 1 vote for former governor of Rhode Island Lincoln Chafee, and 1 vote for journalist and the moderator of the Libertarian Party presidential debate, John Stossel.
Oh my god. Oh, Adam. Yeah, like I was with you for Americoins. Literally nothing else. But America Coins sounds so dumb. It's so beautifully dumb.
I want to believe that he has marketing materials for it, and I want to see it. I want to see them.
I want to believe he has some kind of mid-range 3D printer at home. He is creating them.
Or like, I mean, this is going to be super Midwest, but you know those wax rubber figurine makers that are at the Field Museum?
Yes.
Like one of those little things where it's like a foot and a quarter. It smells like burning wood and candles, or like a melting Barbie doll, and then you get like a green stegosaurus that burns your hands.
Americoin.
I mean, it hurts my hand. I'll take a sandwich. So next up we go to number 5, a fellow by the name of Jim Gray. So Jim was born in 1945 in Washington, D.C., but would grow up in Los Angeles County. In 1966, he would get his undergrad degree from UCLA, then immediately serve in the Peace Corps in Costa Rica. Upon returning to the States, he would get his JD from the USC School of Law, and Jim's career would take off the next year after becoming the Judge Advocate General Corps of the U.S. Navy in California and Guam. In 1983, he was appointed to the Santa Ana Municipal Court, and in 1989, he became the judge to the Orange County Superior Court. Predominant amongst the cases that Judge Gray saw involved drug charges, which would shape a lot of his opinion on the war on drugs. While most people in the 80s were all about tossing drug offenders in jail for extremely long amounts of time, Jim only saw it as disastrous. In his 2001 book, Why Our Drug Laws Have Failed and What We Can Do About It, a judicial indictment on the war on drugs, Jim would state that the war on drugs had been a complete failure that led to mass incarceration for nonviolent offenders and destroyed communities via hyper-aggressive policing. He also stated that the war on drugs had continued only because it was easily fundable, not because it had at any point been deemed a success. Gray made a point that society needs to focus more on education and rehab to remedy drugs, not the constant threat of incarceration. Judge Gray would be an absolute rarity during his tenure, the sort of judge that would punish drug offenders as rarely as possible and minimally as he possibly could. During his time on the bench, Jim would dip his foot into the occasional political race. In 1998, he ran for Congress as a Republican in California's 46th district, where he would end up finishing third in the primary with 11% of the vote, and then immediately switch his affiliation to Libertarian. In 2002, he would try again, but this time running for a seat in the U.S. Senate in California. He would successfully win the Libertarian primary with 57% of the vote, but he wouldn't be able to crack even the top 3 on election day, finishing 4th with 1.8%, losing to the Republicans, Democrats, and the Peace and Freedom Party.
Oh, I can't wait till we get to them.
Oh, they are fun. They had one very bad nominee a number of years ago. We'll get to it eventually. Which brings us to another Gadfly first, and something that you and I will find very exciting.
Ooh.
Because in 2008, Jim Gray became a playwright.
Oh no.
Aren't you excited? Aren't you jazzed about this? This libertarian judge becoming a playwright?
What? A libertarian judge who's middle-aged and has lived in, quote, Los Angeles County, unquote, for most of his adult life became a, oh boy.
To date, Jim has written 2 musicals, his first being an hour-long piece called Americans All. So overall, Americans All seems like it comes from a good place, even if some of it really hasn't aged super well.
Here we go.
There's an anti-racism song called Hate Spoils the Sauce, using kind of like a picnic metaphor of everyone coming together.
Does it get really racist?
Yeah, in the world we're in now, it's that unintentional white racism is what it is. It follows more along the lines that racism is taught by parents or how you're raised, but the moral seems to be more that, you know, you should just stop being racist. That at any time you could just stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like kind of a jaunty tune. It's like not super serious. It's sung by a white girl in a cowboy hat. I mean, to be fair, it's also like the Irvine High School, so I don't want to like rip on any of those kids. They were good. They did solid with the material.
Yeah.
Way better than anything I was in. And it's like you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. And kind of a thing I have to really like about what Jim Gray did for this musical is if you're a high school and you want to do the play, it's royalty free.
He's a mensch.
Yeah. Honestly, decently good guy underneath it all. And that's kind of how I feel about everyone else we're going to be talking about from here on out. Decent people. I really hate some of your politics.
Yeah.
Some of your politics. And that's why I'm thinking, like, this is more optimism. Like, I don't see Jim Gray saying that, you know, businesses shouldn't have regulations because they need to be more evil to make more money. I think he's the sort of person who truly believes that if you get rid of regulations, then naturally people will do the right thing. So in 2009, Jim would retire from the bench and move on to his new passion, marijuana advocacy.
All right.
So his first big push came in 2010 with the Regulate, Control, and Tax Cannabis Act, which was a statewide referendum to legalize weed. I remember at the time this being a really big deal, but sadly, Cali just wasn't ready for that sweet, sweet kush, and it failed by a statewide vote of 53% to 47%. In 2012, Judge Gray would post on his Facebook page asking folks if they would be interested in him being the Libertarian Party's vice president nominee that year. Behind the scenes, Jim had already been asked by Governor Gary Johnson if he would accept, but he put word out there just to test the water and see what people thought. A few days later, Jim would accept and end up winning the nomination on the first ballot. The 2012 race would be the Libertarian Party's best showing since the 1980s, gaining nearly a full 1% of the national vote. So as the complete opposite of Adam Kokesh, Judge Gray would be the last nominee to enter the race, and only entered after Lincoln Chafee stated he was dropping out. Jim would name Larry Sharp as his vice president, which Adam Kokesh had done before, but Sharp would actually agree to run with Jim Gray. However, Jim seems to have only bought his website domain for 1 month because it's already available on the Wayback Machine, and you get a not able to get to the website error otherwise.
Jim Gray!
But lucky for us in the Wayback Machine, I was able to find his campaign's major program, called From a Crutch to a Ladder. And it involves 4 key steps. So, step one. Step one, are you ready for this, Una?
I'm not, because I'm not. I'm not ready because I'm already thinking about how, of course, there are steps because he's moving from a crutch to a ladder.
Oh, yeah.
All right, hit me.
So the overall plan is to remove the IRS and any federal welfare with the exception of special circumstances, which he does not make very clear what those are. But step one, get your bingo cards. It's a flat tax. Flat tax is back, motherfuckers. And the sad thing is, I kind of like this one.
Dusty, that's just the...
This is, I know, welcome to my hell of the past week of me just being like, damn it, I like this. Fuck. But we're going to run into other stuff. We're going to run into other things that are going to derail this a little bit.
No, I'm just worried about you because I'm thinking of like, when people go undercover and then they go too undercover.
Yeah, I get it. My lady. Oh.
All right. No!
All right, so the flat tax works like this. The first $30,000 anyone makes is tax-free. If you make between 30 grand and 100 grand, you get taxed 10 cents per dollar. So if you're making, say, 50 grand a year, that equals out to about 4% in tax. And if you make between 100 grand and 500 grand, it's 15 cents per dollar. If you're making over 500 grand, it's 20 cents per dollar. And so if you're making $500,000, your taxes is 18.8%.
I mean, I definitely get the, like, 30,000 and under, no tax, totally. But then I also think, like, when I was making $35,000 not that long ago, maybe even last year, I don't think I ever, like, paid the government. I think it was always like,
oh yeah, I always got money back.
Yeah, I always got a refund.
Actually, I don't think there's been a single tax where I've ever had to actually pay the government.
I think I've had to pay Illinois a couple times.
Yeah. I mean, technically, we're just giving the government like an interest-free loan for a year.
Yes.
Is what it is. Oh God, I'm sounding like my father. Anyway, so step 2 of the plan: no deductions in taxes at all. And the main idea behind that, at least according to Judge Gray, is to keep government out of your private life. But this is also a really good way to ensure that the wealthy have no way to get out of paying taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's kind of a 2 birds with 1 stone sort of thing.
All right.
And step 3, universal basic income. Kind of.
Oh, no.
All right.
Oh, no.
So Judge Gray wants to make this very clear that this part of his plan is not universal basic income, no matter how much it sounds like a version of it. This particular program was created by Milton Friedman, which he called a negative income tax, which for me was harder to understand than universal basic income. But the general idea is this: people making less than 30 grand would have the possibility of getting up to $15,000 from the government, or on a monthly basis, you would get $1,250. However, you would lose 50 cents of that stipend for every dollar you earned during the year, up till $30,000. So you make no income at all, and you get a full $15,000. And let's say you make $20,000, you would get that money tax-free and then get another $5,000 in stipend money. I like it. It sounds fine. I'm sure there's something that I don't understand about it.
Sure, yes, 100%.
But
Same.
on its face, that sounds reasonable.
Yes, that is like a universal basic income by any other name would smell sweet.
Yes. I mean, especially if, minimum wage is taken away, you at least have a guarantee of getting a lot more money. So at least with this in place, it's like, I don't know, man, but that at least takes the sting out a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And I can see a lot of rural economies benefiting heavily from it.
Yeah. And finally, step 4, into all federal welfare programs. So Gray and many other libertarians have a strong belief in the free market, but an even stronger belief in individual compassion. Nowadays, that can feel a bit naive, but it's an optimism that I don't think a lot of people would expect from the party. If anything, optimism is one of the most noble aspects of the Libertarian Party, but it's also its greatest flaw. For example, Judge Gray states that if all homeless people were to suddenly receive $1,250 a month, that naturally the market would respond by creating a cheap room and board option for those who are homeless who now have money. This is the solution that's been attempted in a number of cities, but the problem then arises of where would these new homes be created? Would neighborhoods be amenable to these new housing options? Would these housing options truly be worthwhile for this population? Most importantly, would enough housing actually become available to fill this sudden need? And also, how many of these new places would just take advantage of people who have no other option available, especially when there's no regulations to keep them in check?
What makes me crazy with getting rid of with privatizing everything is that then obviously like the goal is to place it in the hands of capitalism, and government isn't profitable. Education, it should not be profitable. Like that, it's a public good.
There are just so many little extra details that optimism can't fix. So one of the more interesting questions of the libertarian debate happened right at the beginning. And it's also the one that I was going in like really excited to hear what everyone had to say, but was the one that pissed me off with everyone's fucking answer. And it was, if you were president, how would you have handled the COVID epidemic?
Oh, you weren't excited for these answers? I'm excited for these answers.
As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, I'm not going to like these people now. So Judge Gray actually begins his policy page with just that topic, stating that if the needs of a crisis demands cooperation from citizens, we believe that cooperation should be incentivized rather than threatened. To say the least, the Libertarian Party was not at all fond of shelter in place or requiring of wearing masks. Judge Gray echoes by insisting that if people are given the proper information, that they will make the safe and correct decisions. But ultimately, it's up to the individual to decide what is best for them. Random question, what's the percentage of people that you've seen nowadays wearing masks in public?
Not enough. It's not enough percent.
Yeah, I mean, there was one day I was walking around, it was like maybe 20% of the people are wearing masks right now.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry, you really can't trust most of the population to do what's right because we're creatures of comfort. It's really hard for people to change what they're used to. And unless we're like really pressing that and telling people stay the fuck home, don't go to restaurants, you're gonna get people hurt. Yeah. It's that fucking optimism of the human character, man.
And it's like, people don't always act like they never act in their best intentions. And also, have you noticed that we're a very racist country, and racism will trump any sort of inclination towards market capital or free hand of the market?
Yeah. I mean, Chipotle's still in fucking business.
Yeah.
So ending on a kind of sadder note on Judge Jim Gray with that, Judge Jim would end up finishing 5th for the presidency on the second ballot and would be kicked off the ticket after only getting 6.23% of the vote on the second round. All right, so this leads us to our final dude of the first 3 rounds. It's a fellow by the name of John Mons. Now, John is the only person of color who made the final ballot. And honestly, once again, up until a point, he seems fucking amazing. So he was born in 1965 in Talbot County, Georgia, and he grew up in the small town of Cairo. By 1987, he graduated from Morehouse College with a bachelor's degree in banking and finance. But instead of following that career, he would move away from his studies and take his dream job, homeschooling his 4 children.
Oh.
Yeah, that's such an awe moment. In 2002, he would end up winning the Superior Service Award from the Mu Beta Beta chapter of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and the next year would win the Omega Man of the Year award from the same chapter and fraternity. In 2005, he was named Man of the Year by the Grady County NAACP, an organization chapter that he would also eventually lead. His biggest claim to fame, though, is in 2008. He was the Libertarian nominee for Georgia's Public Service Commissioner. Public Service Commission is essentially what is in charge of utilities in the state of Georgia, so they handle electricity, water, gas, the whole shebang. And so he would end up finishing 2nd out of 2 with 33.4% of the vote. And he would end up getting more than 1 million votes. He is the first Libertarian candidate to ever do that.
Oh, bless.
Not only that, he actually won some counties. He would end up winning Clayton, DeKalb, and Hancock County, 2 of which are counties that cover Atlanta.
Nice.
Yeah. By the year 2009, Mons would have also been serving on a multitude of committees, such as the Grady County Planning Commission, the Grady County Habitat for Humanity Board, and the Grady County Fine Arts Project. And in 2010, he would become the Libertarian nominee for governor of Georgia. He was the first ever African-American to appear on the ballot for governor of Georgia in 2010.
Whoa. Oh, God, that just hit me.
Yeah.
Okay.
He would end up finishing 3rd out of 5 with 4% of the vote, which, pretty good showing. But the only people he beat were write-in candidates. In 2014, he would run again as the Libertarian nominee for Georgia Public Service Commissioner. However, this time around, he didn't reach 1 million votes, but he did win the same 3 counties that he had won before. So by 2020, he would officially enter into the Libertarian race for president. Dubbing his campaign beliefs as the anti-platform, John mainly set out a series of 4 areas in government that he would get rid of as president. I could tell how excited you are right now.
All right, just get it over with. Just hurt my heart.
Okay. The first category is ending foreign wars. He would end all wars the U.S. is engaged in, end spending on any new weaponry, and encourage the Veterans Affairs Department to prescribe fewer opiates and more medical marijuana.
Oh.
Yeah. 2 is he would end the war on drugs. He'd focus on improved harm reduction and rehabilitation, legalize all drugs in a similar program to Portugal's program, which has seen pretty great success and a lot fewer ODs since the program is administrated. He would demilitarize the police, limit warrantless wiretapping, and end federal data collection of citizens and pardon whistleblowers such as Edward Snowden. In a very unique sort of platform, he actually released a list of people that he would pardon, including Russ Albrecht, creator of Silk Road, Leonard Peltier, who was a Native American activist in the 70s who was arrested and accused of murdering a number of FBI agents, and a fellow by the name of Jeremy Hammond, who was also a whistleblower in the vein of Eric Snowden. Along with those 3, he would also pardon up to 81,000 people incarcerated for drug-related crimes.
Yes.
And the only person I've seen so far who has said this, he would also shut down all border detention camps.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Amplify that.
Yeah. Also, I should mention this time, he wears a bow tie.
Aw.
So number 3, all right. Stop punishing poverty. For this, end all regulations for businesses, specifically special licenses, certifications, or permits for businesses to open or for people to independently practice a job. I mean, I could kind of understand this because it costs money to get certification and it costs money to open a place if you have to open it right, but you have 100%. To open a place right. I can't just start a steel mill in my fucking home.
Yes. Yeah. Oh God. Again, the intention, you're right. The intention is pure.
Yeah.
The execution is complicated.
Yeah. He would smash the healthcare cartel, but he doesn't really say how or what the options would be afterwards. I'm assuming privatized medicine.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Once again, allow people to choose the school that their kids go to and make it easier for kids to be homeschooled or attend cyber school. Eliminate cash bail, which is great.
Yeah.
And limit college debt.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then finally, under the category of cut taxes and federal spending, motherfucker will repeal the 16th Amendment.
Yeah, okay.
Eliminate Social Security tax. Abolish the following agencies: the Drug Enforcement Agency, the IRS, the TSA, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Education, and the EPA. He would want to slash spending of the government below 25% of the country's GDP. So here's where the fun gets. I went in to do some math.
Oh, no.
And it was fun. All right, so as of 2018, America's GDP, or gross domestic product, was $20.5 trillion. So to achieve this lower spending, the budget would have to top out at $5.13 trillion. 2018 US spending was $4.1 trillion. So it's something we're already doing. Huzzah! We've done it. So the harder bit, though, is John wants to knock the US debt down below 60% of the GDP, which would mean finding a way to pay off an extra $10 trillion to knock the debt down to where he would want it to be. Salman says he would accomplish this by cutting historically ineffective and wasteful programs, but his site doesn't specify which ones. So I dug a little deeper. So noting the departments and agencies he said he would shut down, that would save about $165.8 billion, and would get him about 1.6% of the way there if he just shut down the DEA, the IRS, and all of them. Let's say he decides to gut the entire Department of Defense. This would add another $716 billion to that, and he would still only be 8.8% of the way there to get to the ideal number. Now, I know one of the things that libertarians have brought up is to kind of make up for this is to sell all of our bases overseas, all of our property overseas, all of the buildings we own nationally, but I don't know how you're going to make $1 trillion doing that.
Yeah, no, it makes it sound like we're the Catholic Church on the fire sale.
Oh my God. A little bit, yeah. So during the debate, Mons also made it incredibly clear how he felt about the government, flat out stating that he, quote, doesn't trust it. In an interview with the Florida Courier, John stated, quote, almost every problem the African-American community has suffered has been at the hands of government. I don't believe you should go to the perpetrator of your problem for the solution. Okay,
you're not wrong, but then you're going to be part of the... my brain hurts when they're like, government's the problem, vote for me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Vote for me, I will not solve your problems. I will leave it to other people. Yeah. Well, and the other crazy thing with this, too, is if you're getting rid of federal funding for these things, one of the largest organizations that helps people directly, no matter who you are cap agencies, and they are funded directly from the federal government. And if suddenly they're not getting money, then there's barely going to be anyone out there to help you with rent assistance or utility assistance or weatherproofing. Most weatherproofing of homes for poor people or people who need it are done through cap agencies.
Huh.
And it's now I'm riled up. Now I'm pissed. It's just like, this is just a thing where it's like, you need to understand what you're actually proposing here. People don't have the budget the government has. People are not going to be able to fill this need like you think they will. And just because that was something people could do in the 40s and 50s, look at the fucking Dust Bowl.
Yep.
So that was John Mons. Poor John Mons would finish in 4th overall. On the 3rd round, he would get 16.86% of the vote, barely missing out by the next round by 14 votes. Also kind of a fun fact, none of the above is an option on every ballot.
Of course it is.
It's pretty great. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about the primaries and who won some of them. But one of my favorite results was, I believe it is in North Carolina, the winner was none of the above.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
Oh.
But yeah,
express your pissy self.
Yeah. So those are our first 3 of the 6. And next episode, we're going to be talking about the final round of voting. And the final 3 candidates. It's going to be great. One of my favorite politicians in the world is going to be part of it. And there is going to be an upset, the likes no one expected, and honestly surprised the hell out of me when it happened.
Amazing. I can't wait. Okay, Dusty.
Yes.
Fuck, marry, politely ask to leave.
Oh my God. Okay.
Of this bottom 3.
All right. Of the bottom 3. Fuck. I don't know. This is so much harder. I would probably ask Adam Kokesh politely to leave, just because I'm in my 30s now. I don't have that like all night protest energy. You know, my knees are bad. COVID's out there. You know, I'll support what you're doing, but I just can't right now. I think I would marry Jim Gray, because he's in his not his twilight years. He's retired. He's going to be around for a while. We share an equal love of playwriting, so we can bounce ideas off of each other.
Yep.
And since he's the one left, I'd fuck John Mons.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. This is fascinating. I would politely ask Jim Gray to leave.
Okay.
Not for any other reason except that the 2 remaining, I feel like, wait, who's the 3rd one? Jim Mons?
Oh, John Mons.
John Mons. I would marry him. Obviously, he's like an incredible father and sounds like a good partner.
Yeah, it's a really
and then,
good
oh God,
you'd fuck Kokesh.
Kokesh, because I think it would be like an angry, passionate, like hate. Like there would just be a lot of emotions, and it would just have to be like that one night, and then you can just get up and be like, oh, I don't even want to get breakfast tacos with you. I'm out.
Yeah. That's like a 4 a.m. Uber.
Yes. You leave the underwear there. You just rush out.
Amazing.
Yep.
Man.
So, yes.
On that note, thank y'all for coming by for this episode of Gadfly. I hope you enjoy it. If you want us to do an episode on Alongside Night, please tell your friends.
Please.
Have them listen to it. If it's not their cup of tea, totally understand. but
then tell the family that you see on Thanksgiving about us.
Yeah. And hope you join us next time when we talk about the top 3 here on Gadfly. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at gadflypod.